Let's set the scene. It's 1943, we're deep in the jungles of Guadalcanal, and a U.S. infantry unit is pinned down, getting picked apart, one by an enemy they can't even see. Their only hope? Well, it might just be one lone soldier, and a rifle that pretty much everyone thought was a complete joke. So for the guys in the 132nd Infantry Regiment, things were looking, well, they were looking grim. They had fought tooth and nail to take their positions, but now they were just bleeding out day after day. Soldiers were just falling, shot by expert snipers who were hidden so deep in the Point Cruz groves you'd never find them. And this one number, it just says it all, doesn't it? 14 men. Gone. Not in some big heroic charge, but just systematically, methodically erased over 3 days. And they were up against just 11 elite Japanese snipers who had turned that jungle into their own private hunting ground. You can imagine morale was hitting rock bottom. With the battalion literally being taken apart piece by piece, the commander starts looking for a new solution, maybe even an unlikely one. And so one man, armed with a weapon his own officers love to make fun of, is about to get his shot. The real question was, could he actually pull off what an entire battalion couldn't? So who was this guy? Let's meet 2nd Lieutenant John George. He's 27, and he's not just some officer they handed a rifle to. No. Back home, he was a state champion marksman from Illinois. But his biggest strength, his privately owned rifle, was also the reason everybody gave him so much grief. And you can just feel the attitude he was up against. His own commanding officer called it a toy. The other officers had this sarcastic little nickname for it, his mail-order sweetheart. Even the armorer, when he saw it, asked if he was planning on hunting deer or Germans. Nobody, and I mean nobody, thought this civilian rifle had any place in a war. Now here's where it gets really interesting. You gotta understand the trade-off George was making. The standard M1 Garand, that thing was a beast, a semi-automatic workhorse with an 8-round clip. George's Winchester was a bolt action, so it was slower, and it held fewer rounds. But, and this is a huge but, it had a scope. He was trading speed for surgical precision. That was a completely alien concept to the military back then. And look, this wasn't some weekend hobbyist we're talking about. When his battalion commander finally got desperate enough to ask him, hey, can that thing of yours actually hit anything? George just calmly laid out his credentials. He was the youngest state champion in Illinois history. He could put 5 shots inside a teacup from 300 yards away. And you can bet the mockery died down real fast. He was given till morning to prove it. So, on the morning of January 22nd, 1943, George slips into the ruins of an old Japanese bunker, looking out over those deadly groves. All he's got is 1 canteen, 60 bullets, and that rifle everyone laughed at. The hunt was on. And the results, they were immediate, and they were staggering. In less than 3 hours, that little 2.5-power scope was letting him see tiny movements the naked eye would never catch. He took out five enemy snipers. That's nearly half the guys who'd been terrorizing his unit for weeks. But here's the thing. The Japanese snipers were pros, and they were adapting. The second day, right after George takes out his 6th target, they figure out where the shots are coming from, and suddenly mortars start raining down right on top of him. The hunter just became the hunted. But even with mortars chasing him, George just relocates and keeps on working. By the end of day 2, he's taken out 8 of the 11 snipers. Now the easy targets are all gone. All that's left are the 3 best, the sneakiest, the most dangerous ones. Okay, so by day 3, this isn't about shooting anymore. It's about thinking. George knows the survivors aren't going to be sitting in some obvious spot. This has become a high-stakes chess match, a duel of wits, fought across hundreds of yards of jungle.
He spots one. He's in a palm tree, but low down, kind of an odd spot. George raises his rifle. He starts that slow trigger squeeze. And then he stops. Something just feels off. You know that feeling? It was just too easy, too perfect. The best snipers, the ones who are still alive, they don't make rookie mistakes like that.
And right there, that one thought changes everything. He realizes the guy in the tree, he isn't the real threat. He's the lure. He's the bait. The actual sniper is hidden somewhere else, just waiting for George to take that shot, waiting for that muzzle flash to give him the target. So what does George do? He doesn't just avoid the trap. He springs it on them. In a brilliant move, he aims and fires at the decoy, but as he's working the bolt on his rifle, he immediately swings his scope to where he calculates the real sniper has to be. He catches that tiny reflexive flicker of movement as the guy reacts to the sound of the shot, and he fires. He takes out the real threat before the guy even knows what's happening. Just an absolutely genius move. The last two, they were even smarter. They learned from their buddies' mistakes. They worked as a team, and they were on the ground, not up in the trees. And get this, one of them sets up in a rocky spot that George himself had used the day before. They were trying to use his own tactics as bait against him, while the other guy lay in ambush. That's some next-level thinking. But it wasn't enough. George outthought them again, rising up out of a water-filled crater to take them both out. And the final score? Just look at this. 11 Japanese snipers had been terrorizing the regiment. In 4 days, John George had taken out all 11 of them. The threat was gone. But hold on, because the story is not over. Not by a long shot. Literally moments after he takes out that last sniper, he hears voices. It's a Japanese infantry patrol, probably coming to check on their snipers, and they are closing in on his position fast. All of a sudden, the long-range master is in a close quarters brawl. With his slow bolt-action rifle against multiple enemies, he still manages to take out 3 more soldiers before he can break away and get back to the American lines. You can just imagine his commander's face when he heard the full report. And this question is what changed everything. Colonel Ferry realized that George wasn't just a good shot. He was a master of a whole new kind of warfare. He didn't just want George to hunt anymore, he wanted him to teach. What happened in those 4 days in the Point Cruz groves sent ripples way beyond Guadalcanal. The actions of this one guy with his mail-order rifle were about to fundamentally change how the entire U.S. military thought about marksmanship. So this is the moment, you see, where one man's expertise, the thing everyone laughed at, becomes standard military doctrine. George built a sniper section from scratch that went on to get 74 confirmed kills, with 0 casualties. He served with the legendary Merrill's Marauders, wrote a book on jungle warfare that became a must-read, and his rifle, that mail-order sweetheart, well, it's in a museum now. John George's incredible story really makes you think, doesn't it? In a world that's all about standardization, about mass production, he proved that sometimes the thing that makes the difference between winning and losing doesn't roll off an assembly line. It comes from the unique skill, the passion, and the courage of just one person.